I wonder what their next album is going to sound like then. You know what I mean? If they're constantly trying to get that psychosocial
Blast
song.
beats. It's
Yeah,
going to be 60
exactly. Yeah.
minutes of blast beats.
Yes. MTV has dropped Ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw yesterday though that they're talking about MTV just completely going away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And so I saw an interview by Ricky Rackman, if you remember
Mm.
him,
Mm. Oh, sure.
the original,
Headbangers Ball.
yep, Headbangers Ball. And he had a pretty cool insight with something I hadn't thought about. And he said, everybody talks about what killed MTV, and that was reality TV. It killed it. And I think
The
there's some
real
truth to
world.
that. Yeah, Real World was like so big and everything, and then it was like, oh my gosh, we made so much money off that. How do we reproduce this? And they just kept
Mm.
going and going and going. Right now, dude, like I haven't watched MTV in forever. Like sometimes I'll go on, traveling for work or something like that. I'll flip it over and it's just ridiculousness for like
Hmm.
3 days straight.
Yeah.
But the other night I was on YouTube TV, flipped it on, and it said Mrs. Doubtfire was playing. I'm like,
Hmm.
what? I'm like, they're
Yeah.
playing movies on
Movies.
MTV.
Yeah.
But
A lot of those music channels like CMT
yeah,
does the same thing.
yeah, VH1. I went
Hmm.
down to VH1 as well, and it was playing some movie as well. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is going on? And
Yeah.
so, but Ricky Rackman was talking about it, and so he was like, I don't necessarily think it was reality TV that necessarily killed MTV. He's like, I think it was YouTube, and
Mhm.
I was like, what? And then what he said was, he said, if you think about it, MTV was known for music videos, and it was the place to go to see music videos. But
Mhm.
once you had the ability to type in your favorite band and watch their music videos at your disposal, MTV didn't serve a purpose anymore.
Right.
I'm like, I didn't
Yeah.
think about it like that.
And I
So
think that
I think
they
he's right on
probably
with
knew
something.
that. I
Yeah,
think MTV probably shares the same opinion as he does,
yeah,
or same view, because they tried to pivot. They tried to pivot into strictly reality television,
right.
you know, and that worked for a while.
Yeah,
But again, I mean, you can pull those up whenever you want to, really,
yep,
if you look hard enough. But it's also available on demand,
right.
you
As
know.
is anything on the internet. And I think that's the thing. It's
Hmm.
like you think
Yeah.
about like Discovery Channel and National Geographic and all those things. It was like those were really big at the
Yeah.
time, or having their own lane because, the internet wasn't so prevalent, that it was like, I'm going to go look up videos of lemurs. It was just, you didn't really
Yeah.
spend that much time on the internet because it took forever to load stuff up or whatever. And so you just flip it over and like, oh, I'm watching Shark Week, or whatever.
Right.
Now it's just, then I think you're right. And it's just, with the internet, it just took over. And so,
Right.
everybody had everything at their disposal. So it was like, what do we do to be magnetic, to draw
Hmm.
people in and just turn into just dirt, trashy,
Right.
freaking reality shows?
Well, I think it all revolves around the anticipation, right? So when
Yeah,
you would watch MTV, it's like, okay, what video are they going to play next? And you're waiting to see the one that you want. I remember
right.
watching until like 2:30 in the morning once when I was a kid, waiting for
Oh
Corn
yeah.
to come on for the
Yep.
video for Blind,
Yep.
and it finally did, and it was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And this was before they blew up, but but yeah, it's that anticipation,
Right.
and it's like now, you can watch a mix on YouTube of music videos, which I do typically in the morning when I'm, working out, um, and that kind of gets the fix there, but that's what's absent,
Right.
the anticipation and some of the other original programming, Beavis and Butthead, that kind of
Sure.
thing, Liquid Television.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that MTV did kind of in parallel to just music. And then you got the real world, and then that whole concept kind of exploded,
Right.
and then they did it again with Jersey Shore. And
Yeah.
then, but it's like, do people care about that anymore? Has that ship sailed? And probably. And it's like, is there a place for MTV anymore? No. To me,
Yeah.
it died years ago.
Oh yeah,
When
totally.
they stopped playing videos. Although I will say they have a bunch of like a grouping of channels, right? So you still have MTV Classic where you have
Sure.
a
Yep.
24-hour rotation of videos, and they have it kind of built out into chunks. You got the rock block and metal mayhem
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff. But there's no like live host or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it still exists, and I'll turn it on if I'm, cleaning or doing something
Right.
around the house. But
See, but the
it's not the
problem,
same.
right? I was gonna say the problem with that though was is that I did the same thing. Again, I was flipping through channels. I was like, oh, cool, MTV Classic. I didn't even realize it
Mm,
was there. And
yeah.
so I watched it for a little bit, and I think they played like, I think it was like a Cinderella song and then something else right afterwards and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I'm like, I've seen these videos before, and it was like that was what was cool
Right.
about MTV was it was like it was throwing the new stuff in front of you, and like you might hear the song
Yeah.
first on the radio, but then it was like, oh, cool, they got a video for it, and especially like you said, the anticipation factor of it is it might be a new band that you've never heard before. Say like when Korn first came out, you hear this on the radio, and you're like, what is this? What do these guys look like? And your brain just starts going kind
Hmm.
of crazy about it. And then finally, a month later, all of a sudden you see this video for Blind and you're like, whoa,
Hmm.
they got dreadlocks and they're like
Yeah.
bouncing up and down. Like, what is this?
Hmm.
And it just added a whole nother factor to it.
Right.
But that's the thing, we're not getting fed anything new, like that
Mm.
anymore.
Yeah. It's
So
that on demand factor. So I think,
yeah.
Rackman's right.
Yep.
So I mean, if it goes away, cool. You know,
Yeah.
that content is elsewhere now.
Right.
Um, so to where we can get at it. Will that leave room for something else? Sure. And there was, now that I think about it, there is another MTV channel, and I don't recall the name of it. It's not on um, the YouTube TV package that I have, but there is another one that does a lot more metal.
Okay.
Um, and I don't remember what the name of the channel is, but
Interesting. Yeah, because I saw there's
yeah.
still MTV2 and then MTV
Mm.
Classic and
One of them is just that constant rotation of ridiculousness.
yes, yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that was just regular MTV
Just
because
MTV
again,
one. Yeah.
and it was still on there even though they canceled it. I think they're still playing them or whatever. But that was
Mm.
the thing I like when it passed Mrs. Doubtfire, and then I think there's another movie, and then it was like 4 hours of
Mm.
ridiculousness still, and it's like, geez.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I also remember seeing, um, or the first time I saw Be Quiet and Drive on MTV. And
what is
I
that?
was
Be
like,
Quiet and Drive.
Deftones.
Oh, okay. I was like, what show is that?
Yeah. No, the video.
Yeah, the video. Yep.
And I was like, because that was a big deal. Like if you got your video on MTV, you
Oh,
were
yeah.
going places. That was
Yes,
you know, you were going somewhere.
for sure.
So everybody was constantly fighting
Yep.
for that. That's what was going to break you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and it's so weird that that's like
Yeah.
it's such an afterthought now. I mean, I think it's more of just a fun thing to do. It's a risk. You're gonna put some dollars towards a music video that some people might not even care about. Whereas back in the day, it was almost a part of your support angle, and
Oh
now
yeah.
it's just you
Labels would
know,
pay for it, but now,
yeah,
you know, it's still necessary,
right,
but production values are not what they used to
yeah,
be. And um, but there's a whole new, crop of bands that are doing it right.
sure, I
Um,
agree. Yep,
but for a long time it was just kind of like yeah,
it
it'll be what it's gonna
was.
be,
It got
you
real
know.
dead for a minute there too, but I'll tell
Mm,
you, and you tell me how you are on this too. But like when I look up a band, like the first thing I look up, and I don't know why I do this, but like I'm really intrigued with what they are like live.
mm.
And
Oh
so if
sure.
I hear about a brand new band, I'm like, okay, like Tala, for example, I'm like, okay, who are these guys? Da, da, da. And I'm like, I want to see them live. And it's like their music videos are amazing. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, they put so much behind them. I'm like, that's
they're
cool. But
good.
I'm like, I want to see what they're like live. And I'm like, they bring it just as hard live. I'm like, that's
Mm,
cool. And there's so many bands out there that are like that, which is really, really neat. And then another thing that I think of too is like, especially right now, there's so many, and not to like disparage this movement or whatever whatsoever, but there's so many like women leader, vocalist metal bands right now and
sure.
stuff. And it's like I want to see if they're actually doing it live or it's just recorded tracks.
Right. Sure.
And so that's another thing. I'm like, okay, let's check and see if this chick can actually do this. It's like, which is cool.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a weird. weird again, we bring this up every time, but it's a weird situation we're in right now, that's for sure.
Right. And
But
we're constantly kind of, talking about and kind of reliving a certain era
yeah,
in music that is long gone.
yeah. Right.
And the industry evolved and,
Yeah.
and it continues to evolve. But, like I said, last week or probably every other episode, there's going to be the next big thing right behind it.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
MTV goes away, there will be something else.
Sure. Yeah.
Guarantee you.
Well,
Whether
that's
that's the
yep.
advent of like online channels where you can go and you can watch a Headbangers Ball type scenario
Right.
and, just kind of spitballing, but whatever it is, it'll force something kind of from the background into the foreground.
Agreed. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just interesting though because like for a very long time, it's like I'm thinking even back to like 8 tracks and tapes and stuff, really showing our age here.
Oh
But
man.
you could see and almost anticipate the progression of essentially media at the time. It was
Mm,
like 8 tracks are cool, but it can only hold a couple songs and whatever.
right.
And then the tape came out. I was like, that's awesome. This is really neat. So you can hold like an entire album on this little compact tape, and that's great. And you can put this in your car and da 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 da. And then it was like, then the compact disc came out. I was like, that's really cool. There we go. It's like,
Yeah.
what are they going to think of next? And then it was like, okay, well, obviously, MP3s. And it's like, oh, and it was like, it just kept progressing and progressing and progressing to your media being smaller and more compact. Well, here we are. Now it doesn't
Yeah.
matter anymore. It's it's
Right.
it's above us. It's floating through the air. It's like
Yeah.
music isn't tangibly in our hands anymore, and
Right.
so it's like, where do we go? And that's
Hmm.
that's the thing. It's like it was so easy to look forward and be like, I can't wait to see what they do now. And it's like now I'm like, it's not that necessarily that I can't wait. It's like I don't know what the hell what we're gonna do. It's just
Hmm.
I feel like we've reached the end, and now nobody knows what the hell to do anymore.
Yeah.
So you've
Eh,
reached the end of
something
the
will
internet.
something will pop up.
Yeah.
It always does. There was always the next big thing.
Yes.
And that's it's all an evolution,
Yeah.
and how people, consume different media and
Correct.
how artists work and musicians,
Yep.
it's night and day.
Yep.
So,
Well, that's the thing. It's
but
like I remember, back when MySpace was huge,
oh dear.
and I remember saying it. Not that I'm like some guru and genius when it comes to technology or anything, but I remember it was so big, and I was like, this something else is going to come along and be bigger than
Hmm.
MySpace. People are like, no way, this is the
Hmm.
biggest thing in the world right now. It's like, no, I get it, but it'll always evolve into something else. And sure enough, here comes Facebook and just
Hmm.
kicked its ass. And then
Hmm.
and the same thing's gonna go. I mean, that's the one thing you got to give it to Zuckerberg is like he's always trying to evolve, whatever he's
Yeah.
doing, and then
Mhm.
he monopolizes as well by buying
Yeah.
out the competitors, which is
Maximize shareholder value.
yep, yep. So he's pretty smart in that regard. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
let anything get in front of Facebook, but it will eventually. It might be
Yeah.
20 years from now, but it might be 20 months from now. We don't know, but something
Yep.
eventually will topple over Facebook.
Definitely. And
So,
it's weird too because, as we kind of think back to the new metal stuff, like none of that was around,
right.
until, I mean, when did MySpace pop up? 03,
Yeah.
02, 03.
Hopefully 02, 03. Yeah.
So that was kind of the
Good
tail end
question.
of what new metal was, at least, kind of that era of new metal.
Yeah.
And, so we didn't have to deal with that really.
Correct.
And it's like being in a band nowadays, like that's your sole focus. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have a massive imprint on the internet, you're nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Back
Yep.
then it was like, well, how many records have you sold?
Yeah.
You got the barcode and they would look at your scans
Yep.
and your sales. And
Yep.
they, okay, you've sold 5,000 copies of this, verified.
Right.
Okay, we'll do this. And, it's like that was kind of the indicator. Now it's social media. How many streams do
Yeah.
you got?
It's all followers,
How many followers you
streams.
got?
Yep.
And it's like,
Which
even
is
now though,
crazy. Yeah.
follower counts are so inflated.
Oh, totally.
I
Yeah.
would be curious to know what percentage of followers are real people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Compared to bots or paid.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Fun stuff.
Oh,
But
well.
hey, speaking of
Yeah.
speaking of like, coming to a new age of things. So big news.
Yeah.
And it's not new news, I should say, but yeah, so Slipknot, after 25 years of taking on the music business, they decided to sell their catalog to Harbor View. So
Hmm.
wow.
They got
And
paid.
they got paid 120 milli. That is
Hey,
insane.
it's everybody's goal to retire early, and good for
Right.
Corey and Sean.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, do you care?
I'll tell you this. I care for those guys. I think I've seen Corey and a few of the other guys on interviews talking about how they basically got a shoddy deal out of the gate and they've been behind the eight ball ever since. And you would anticipate the fact that, you know, they've sold so many records and they're such, they're one of the biggest metal bands right now
Mhm.
and one of the biggest to ever do it. And, they sell out these huge arenas and all this other stuff whenever they play or wherever they play.
Yeah,
And you would just think, gosh, they gotta be multi-millionaires. And they're not. I mean, they're
no.
they're doing okay, but they still gotta work hard for it,
Mhm.
Whereas you see like, you know, Metallica back, when they were 10 years in and they were freaking just back swimming in money. It's like they
It's a
with that
different
Black
time.
album at different time. Yeah, that Black album
Hmm.
though, they made so much money hand over fist
Private
and
jets and the
private everything.
whole
Yeah.
9 yards.
Yep. And Slipknot, they did well, and I think they're
Mhm.
still doing well, but I just I remember Corey, especially was talking about it. I think it was actually on the I could be wrong on this, but I think he was on the Steve O podcast and he was
Mhm.
talking
Yeah.
about it. And he was like, a lot of people think that I'm just absolutely loaded. And he's like, I'm doing okay. And they like looked up his net worth and they're like, yeah, it says here you worth $10 million. He's like, ha, I wish.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's
he's just
worth
like,
a lot more than that now.
right. And he's like, I'm doing okay. He's like, but I wish I had $10 million.
Yeah.
And we
And
know some people that know them in Des Moines and stuff, and they're sitting comfortably, but I would say they got kind of like CEO money, not
mhm.
necessarily Metallica money.
Right.
So
And and I reference Corey and Sean specifically because I don't know if they're gonna owe any of that money to estates,
right,
Paul, Joey. Um,
you would think that they have to.
I mean there's probably something there, but um and I don't know how the breakout works, but I mean I
Right.
believe Mick and Jim are independent contractors.
Yep.
So Corey and Sean up front took the risk.
Yes. Yep.
And they're gonna, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they're gonna get the bulk of that money. But they're also business people,
Right.
and I mean,
Big
I
time.
wouldn't be shocked if you saw them invest a lot of that somewhere, to preserve whatever, or um, because I mean, the Knotfest brand, they've tried to expand several times into a
Yes.
multimedia company,
Correct. Yeah.
and it's like, well, what could they do with tens of millions of dollars behind them? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep.
Um, and because I mean, it still is a multimedia company.
Oh,
It
totally.
just it kind of cooled down, I
Yep.
think, and they
Yeah.
kind of really honed in on what they were trying to do. But they were doing a lot of things. They had a whiskey that they did.
Sure.
They were going after all sorts of podcasts, and they still
Yeah.
have a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because our buddy Josh Toomey's on there, right?
he was.
He was.
He did one for them. And I apologize. I don't remember what it was called.
We'll throw up a
But
link.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of that I think kind of ran its course quick, and
Yeah.
they were looking at other avenues. So I'm curious to see if they continue down that road and kind of
Sure.
continually invest some of that money, or if retirement is the thing, and that's totally fine if it is, because they earned it for
Oh, big
sure.
time.
And I have seen a number of folks on social media and on Reddit and all sorts of places that they hear the words private equity and they just feel gross about it.
Right.
And it's like, well, this is the music business.
Right. Yeah.
This is their career.
Sure.
So they're, They got to make money,
Right.
you know? And they've, you know, unless you have toured, you have no idea what it's like. And they've been doing it for 30 years
Yeah.
and it's a grind.
Yeah, dude.
And I mean, it's a grind on your body, it's a grind
Right.
on your mental health. Like, it's absolutely crazy. So, I mean, they earned every dollar that they're
Yeah.
getting paid,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's the thing. It's like if you've been around for 30 years and you are that big of an influence on a genre in
Hmm.
particular,
Yep.
and so many people attribute to like, I mean, you're not a deep cut band at that point, you know what I mean? And it's like it's cool to
Yeah.
be like, I mean, there's a lot of bands that we know that have been around for 30 plus years and they're touring and stuff and they're in smaller venues and everything. Dude, Slipknot was big in that's been it. They like poof, and they've just been like soaring the atmosphere ever since. And they're one of the few bands that can actually write, I hate to say it, it's gonna sound crappy, but can write kind of a shitty album and still be huge. I think they still
Yeah.
get a lot of grace, and because like their last couple albums they've been all right, but
Which one was
people's
shitty?
uh, I'll,
I'm just kidding. I won't make you
yeah,
say.
yeah. But either way, but the thing is, I still
Hey,
think that
nobody bats a thousand.
no. I still think their first album in Iowa and then Volume 3 are the things that they're still pretty much writing on today. And then Psychosocial came out and just
All hope is gone.
all hope is
Hmm.
gone. And it was just, I was like, ooh, the epitome, like just the irony of that for me was, but whatever. That
Right.
was their Black album, and again, more power to them. There's definitely some
Yeah.
good songs on that album as well,
It's the
but like,
last one with all nine.
yep, it was. Yeah, which is that's its own thing. But again, I just
Hmm.
and we could go on and on and on about Slipknot all day, I think. But yeah, I just with that album for me, it was truly for me, it was like all hope was gone when I heard Psychosocial. And
Mm.
I was just like, gosh, like why did they write this? And I get it. Now I know why they wrote it. A
I love
hundred
that
and
song.
twenty million dollars. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's like everybody's. I mean, you say, hey, like any just standard, not like long-term Slipknot person, but the person who became a Slipknot fan in like '09,
Mm.
'08, '09 is like, what's your favorite Slipknot song? Oh, Psychosocial, it's like I just remember in the internet, everybody was trying to like, do their vocals over it and stuff, and they're just horrible, horrible people, and it's just ugh, I don't know. I could go on and on, dude. It's
Yeah.
just that
Sure.
that song bugs
Well,
me.
well, let
But
me ask you a question.
sure.
What what is your feeling about, I mean, private equity getting into music in general and buying catalogs like that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Or does it matter?
I don't know. I'm on the fence with it because I think there's good and bad with it because the bad thing is like, okay, you know, where's like most people as an artist, you should be creating for the art of it, right? You're a creative
Mm.
person. You should be creating things that you want to create and put it out there. And if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
And that's what a true artist is. Once you start getting into the business side of it, like where you're like, I'm trying to write this because so and so is telling me to write it like this, or
Right.
like we've talked before, 14 people are attributed to this one song, where it's
Yeah.
like it's not art at that point. It's all about business. So, but the
Mm.
thing is, there's certain people though that I think who cut the ocean in half and just steered this way and everybody followed it. That's something that those type of people that do something, they should get everything they deserve on a
Mm.
positive way. And so
Yeah.
I think of bands like Korn, I think of bands like Nirvana, I think of bands like Slipknot, and they just did something that had never been done before. They took a huge risk on it and they just nailed it. And I think that that's cool. But then but again, like, it comes down to the business side of it and stuff. I think that they deserve to get paid for something that does so well. And but yeah, when you get private equity involved, then it's like, okay, now it's like it does dance on that line of this is gross and it's not about the art anymore and it's all about just making money off of consumers. And but it's like, but like you said, it's a business though. The whole
Yeah.
thing is a business. From the second that you put your music out in front of people, whether it's in front of a show of 5 people or whatever, when you're trying to make money off of one person, it's a business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just depends on the scale of it.
Yeah. And I
So
mean, selling a catalog isn't new.
no, yeah.
That's been happening for
Well,
decades.
look at Michael
People, I mean,
Jackson and the Beatles.
I was just going to say the
Yep.
Beatles sold it to Michael and, or I don't know who Apple, I don't know how that transaction went, but if memory serves, Neil Young just sold his.
Yeah, he did.
And
Yep.
that's the retirement plan.
Right.
It's like these
Yeah.
guys probably don't have 401ks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so this is the retirement plan,
Yep.
and good for them, because also on the flip side, as an artist, an influx of money gives you freedom. It
Yep.
gives you creative freedom because now
Sure.
you're not really answering to anybody. So what do you
You
care? It's like,
nailed it,
okay,
dude. That's a solid point right there because I wonder what their next album is going to sound like then. You know what I mean? If they're constantly trying to get that psychosocial
blast
song.
beats. It's
Yeah,
going to be 60
exactly. Yeah.
minutes of blast beats.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Eloy is going to be like, we're going to kill everybody. I got
Hmm.
youth and power. We're killing
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
But
Hit the gym now, man.
that's
Because
right. That's a good
um,
point though, man. I wonder if they're gonna because again, it's like they got that, like Joe Rogan says all the time, they got that FU money, where it's like,
oh
well,
yeah. Oh
we
yeah.
don't care anymore. We could do whatever we want, we're
Yep.
not we don't have a carrot dangled out in front of us.
Yeah.
And that's I always forget the name of that freaking album. What was the name of the album that Metallica did that had like the coffins on the front?
Death Magnetic.
Death. No, 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 no. Hold on. I gotta look it up here real quick. Um, gosh, sorry. Oh, is it Death
Mm.
Magnetic? It will. Oh, there's no way. Hold on here. That's not what I was looking for though. But what was the one before that? Hold
Oh,
on. I'm sorry,
was
everyone.
that Saint Anger? Was Saint Anger
No,
the
no, no,
one
no, no. Saint
before?
Anger was like '08. Gosh, and of
No, that
course
was
when you
early
look it up,
2000s.
it's never in freaking. Let me look in succession here. My brain sucks. Let's see. Here we go. Sorry. Load, reload, Saint Anger, Death Magnetic. Oh man, is it Death Magnetic that I was thinking of? It must have been. Maybe I'm getting confused with 72 seasons or something like that. But either way, okay. So I guess it was Death Magnetic. Holy crap. Um, anyways, man, if I could go back in time and cut all this shit out. Anyways, okay. So Death Magnetic, I thought was that FU money move by Metallica. I thought that album that's where they went back to the roots. And that's where they had a
Mm.
bunch of 10, 12, 15-minute songs where I thought that it was just like, you know what? Everybody for all these years, all of our true fans have been saying, I want Ride the Lightning again. I
Mm.
want Injustice for All again. I want, Master of Puppets again. Like whatever happened to all that. And, everybody says they sold out with Load and Reload, but then, not a lot of people like Death Magnetic. I don't know why. Um, but again, if this is
Better than
the
Saint
album,
Anger.
oh gosh, yeah. But if this is the album I'm thinking it is, which I think it is, because I went and saw them on tour with this, and they're going with Down, and it was awesome. But I like this album, man. This is one of those ones I could put in and just listen all the way through, and I'm probably going to do it tonight, actually, as a
Death
matter of
Magnetic.
fact. But yeah, but again,
Yeah,
I mean,
it
is
was
there any
definitely better.
standout songs that's like, oh my gosh, this is one or this is whatever? No, I don't think so. But again, that to me is the big FU of it all, where they're
Mm.
not like being pushed by a label, and you know what I mean.
Was that around the time where they bought all their masters?
I think it was actually.
Because I think they bought everything back from who were they on?
So that was with that.
Electra.
So Death Magnetic was with, yes, they used to be with Elektra, and then Death Magnetic, the label for that was Warner Brothers, and then after that it was Blackened. So that's
Okay,
when they were
Blackened is
doing
their
their own.
imprint.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay. So yeah, it was around the time they were buying all their masters back.
yeah,
So yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, they were like, okay, we got the money to do whatever we want now,
yep.
and you
And that
know,
would be cool because I think the difference though is when Metallica did this with Death Magnetic, that style of thrash would is pretty much been swept away. I think that especially in 2008, I mean, new
mm,
metal and what would you call it, like post alt, kind
yeah,
of. metalcore and all
Those
this other
waters are
stuff.
so murky anymore. Who knows?
Exactly. And so this whole big thing was what was new and everything. But if you think about it, that style is still coming out, like the new metal and all this other stuff, and it's having resurgence and everything, which is cool, because it still sounds relevant.
Mhm.
And I think that Slipknot could put out something that is very much, Slipknot self-titled or Iowa, which I know a lot of people love, and it would do very,
Right.
very well.
Well, here's the thing too, at a certain point, when you're young, especially those guys, you're really pissed off
Yeah.
about everything.
Yep. Yep.
When you're in your late 40s and your early 50s, you're pissed
Mhm.
off about a whole other set of things.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And you know, it's like, are they even, I mean, they just made $120 million. How pissed off are they? You
Right.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think they'd be doing it for the love of doing it, but um, you know, trying to recreate those two albums, I think it'd be pretty difficult. But
Yeah.
it's a different mindset. The older you get,
I
you
think
know,
so. Well,
you're
and I think
more
we talked about this before too. It's just like when you grow a bunch of skill sets, you know, it's really hard not to utilize all of them.
right.
It's just when you're 22 and you know this, and this, and that's it, you're gonna get really good at those things. But
Mm,
when you're 50 and now you know
mhm.
24 different things,
You know
it's
all the
like,
tricks.
all the tricks. Yeah. And it's really hard not just to keep falling back into, well, at that point, am I writing for the fans or am I writing for myself? Or, you're trying
Hmm.
to touch base with what got you there in the first place. And I think, especially for 30 years, they've spent all this time trying to chase that becoming the biggest, best thing that's ever existed. And then you kind of get there and it's like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
I like, you come back to just giving an analogy of like MMA fighting and stuff. You can't be the champion forever. You can
Right.
retire on top, or you can eventually just look really bad and lose 4 or 5 fights in a row and have everybody go, man, I miss the days when that person was awesome. And that,
Right.
unfortunately, it happens with a lot of bands today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. I think Slipknot's one of the few that they could lose a few fights and still look like they're the champion.
Still stay on top.
Yep,
Yeah.
still stay on top. Yep.
Well, I mean, they've done everything. I hesitate to say correctly, but they've checked most boxes where most bands
Yeah.
don't. So it's like, okay, the music has to be there, sure. But
Yeah.
if you have a gimmick, that only adds to it.
Yeah.
If there is mystery there, that only adds to it. It's like, okay, you have 9 guys in masks, and for a long time, nobody knew who they were.
Yeah. Yeah. They
So
tried
it's
to pull the
like,
Kiss thing or
who,
whatever. Yep.
right. And that is a tale as old as time. Like people try to recreate that because it works
Yep. Yep.
and gimmicks work. And I'm a sucker for a gimmick. I'll be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
Whether it's pirate metal, I love Ailstorm.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Dogma thing, the
Yep.
nuns, I love that. I think that's super clever. Necrogoblicon.
Yo.
Freaking
that
goblin, dude. Like,
that dude
you
is the
know,
best.
and
Yep.
one of their songs, I think it's called "We Need a Gimmick." It's hilarious, and
That's
I'm a
funny.
sucker for a gimmick because it only
Yep.
adds to kind of to me, kind of it adds another layer of interest,
Right.
and mystique, and you want to know more and you want to learn more. People
Correct.
talk about it more. Your merch can get more clever.
Correct.
It's like I probably would wear it more if it didn't say "FU" on the back, but I have an Ailstorm shirt. It's like it says Pirate Metal Drinking Crew, and it's got the
Nice.
octopus thing, and I'm like, and I love that.
Yeah.
Just can't really go out in public too much with it
Sure.
because it really does. It just says "FU" in huge letters in the back. But it's like I'll take my money. Same thing
Right.
with Necrogoblicon.
Yeah.
Like the possibilities are endless when you have something like that, and that only adds to it.
Yeah.
And Slipknot had that, you know. But yeah, they weren't doing anything new. Kiss did it. It's hard to pull off. I
Right.
will say that. You have to be super original with it because if you're not, then you're just going to get made fun of.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like it's really hard to stake your own like flag on your own island.
Mhm.
and say I did this first when it's like,
Yep.
did you? You know, but if you can
Yep.
pull that off, that's pretty
Yeah.
freaking amazing. And I
Right.
think that there's a lot of bands that, in that wake, were able to stake their own claims on a lot of their own little
Hmm.
islands and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
like I think of like Crossbreed, we've been
Sure.
talking offline a lot about Crossbreed lately and stuff
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
that. And I thought that they're just, to me, one of those bands in the new metal movement that they just found their little corner, and they were just like, we are going to be this industrial blue light glowing freaking sparks flying, 3D, like that was so cool. And they're good
Hmm.
songwriters too, and I was like, that
Yeah.
was the one thing that nobody could take
Gotta
away
have the
from them.
music.
Yep, they
Gotta have the
gotta have the
music first.
music. And they brought there's so many Slipknot, da 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 da. You name out Mudvayne, all these other cools. They brought such a cool visual element to it. I kind of think, and I would argue, probably to the day I die, that Crossbreed is probably the kings of bringing the visual element to a live show, and I just think that they're the best at it. Um, but especially back then is what I'm getting
Right.
at. And they again, they were able to flag their island on that and do it and stuff.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that selling records isn't based off of an aesthetic that you do on a live show,
Right.
unfortunately, and so which is too bad for a band like Crossbreed.
Right.
But you're right though. The mystery though
Hmm.
is a huge sell even to this day. I mean, I know like Ghost, they rode that for a
Yeah.
long time.
Nobody knew who Tobias was for years.
Correct, for years, and they were really pushing that. Like, who is Tobias? Who is that?
Hmm.
And
Well, it keeps people talking about you.
exactly. And look at Static X. When uh
Yeah. Nobody knew that was Edsel Dope.
Edsel, there you go. I was like, man, what's his name? Edsel Dope. Yeah. But it was
Hmm.
like, but it was all over the internet. I was like, dude, they're trying to uncover the mystery. It's like, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it's Edsel Dope. If you look
Yeah.
right here, you see this tattoo and you look back at this,
Hmm.
picture of him in 2014. And,
Right.
it was such a cool thing. And
Yeah.
so,
So, and to kind of to dovetail that a little bit too, stop me if I've told this story before. I don't think I have, but kind of going back to Ghost, I know I mentioned before that he, at least certain tours in the States, he would have a whole nother band here.
right.
Right. So then kind of in musician circles, everybody's trying to figure out who it is, like who got the
Right.
job.
Yes.
And people are analyzing hand tattoos, like any little piece of identification that they can get their hands on, they're scrutinizing it to the nth degree.
Right.
And the particular tour in question, I knew he was looking for a bass player. So I was kind of making some phone calls to see if I could make that happen. Clearly, I did not. Um, but he ended up going with, oh, I do not remember her name, but she was in like a Led Zeppelin, kind of all female Led Zeppelin thing, Zepparella,
Oh, sure.
I think
Yeah.
it might be called.
Yeah.
And they found her by her hand tattoo.
Yeah. Isn't
And
that
it's like,
crazy?
okay. Yeah, it's wild. Same
Yeah.
thing. That's how they got V-Man
Yeah. I was gonna say
from
that's how they got
Slipknot.
V-Man. I was just gonna bring that up. Yep.
And I know that, people were trying to figure out, if it was Eloy or not. And
Correct.
it's like, well, he just left Sepultura for something,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. So, but yeah, it adds a whole nother layer, and it's another way to promote your band.
Yeah.
Your music, there's so much of it now that you need something else. You need another layer.
Right.
And, and it works.
Yeah.
I mean, on what planet does pirate metal work? You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
What
Yep.
planet does goblin metal work?
Right. Yes.
It's like, I remember seeing them for the first time, and they had a dude in the mask who was running around taking pictures with everybody. So of course I got my picture taken with
That's
him.
right.
Like, like that. It's just a fun extra
Yes.
thing, and it's
Agreed.
a character, and and all the music videos, and it's funny, and yeah, the music's heavy and kind of brutal sometimes, and then there's this whole element of humor, and
Yeah.
you can it opens up so many more doors, and
It totally
Slipknot
does.
definitely took advantage of that.
Right. I think so too. And I think that it just depends on people's flavor on certain things too, because you look at like the hardcore scene, they're definitely not bringing in a lot of aesthetics to their live
No,
shows and stuff like
no,
that. But again, at that point, it's all about tribalism, as far as I'm concerned. It's we are part of a movement,
yeah,
and it's kind of simplistic music, but you know, it's good, it gets it moving kind of a thing, and they get all the hardcore dancers out there doing their thing and everything, and you know, it's cool, you know, it's, but again, there's certain people that that's all they're into, and that's cool, you know,
Yeah.
that's your lane. And then there's other people that like, I like this, but I like to kind of go into hardcore a little bit and just kind of have fun with it and stuff, where it's not all about seeing pyro and all these other things. It's just seeing some
Yeah.
dudes and some t-shirts and hats on, and they're freaking just getting right in the crowd. And it's just,
Right.
you know, you just feel it, you know, it's very visceral, you know.
Right.
But again, it just comes down to flavor and what it is. But you're so right though on the mystery side of things. And Slipknot has been really good at like regenerating that. And it
Mm.
sucks that it's like, you know, with Joey leaving and with Paul dying and all those other things,
Mm.
it kind of went in the wake of all that. But it
Yeah.
was good on them though on a business decision to actually add that mystery to it again, you know, where they
100%.
could. Um, yeah.
100%. You know, and it's, but you know, with every action, there's an equal or greater reaction.
Yep.
You know, to me, that was grunge
Oh yeah.
and early 90s
Yeah.
alternative. It's like, okay, we're just going to wear our regular clothes. We're not going to do the hair metal thing. We're not going to do the Kiss thing,
Right.
you know, despite a lot of those guys being active members of the Kiss army.
Sure.
You know, look at Sebastian Bach. Um, you know, and then you have it come around again. And
Yeah.
then, you know, it's like, it's just a cycle, you
Yeah.
know,
It
but
is.
it works. It
Yep.
does work, you know, but then the opposite also works, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like you have this conceptual thing that'll work for 10, 15 years, and then you're going to have jeans and t-shirt again,
Yep. You're
you know.
exactly right.
Um,
It's funny because I actually lived that. And like what I mean by that is like I remember somebody showed me an old like newspaper article from like, gosh, trying to remember what year it would have been, 90, 98, 99, something like that, of that we
mm,
did in like our local paper for the band that I was in at the time. And I remember seeing the or having the interview, but like I said in it, I was like, we are not about gimmicky aesthetics and stuff like that. I forget exactly what I
right.
said verbatim, but I was talking about that like particularly. I'm like, we are just normal dudes. We're getting up there. We're, you know, just it's all about the music for us and stuff. And then here
Yep.
I was like 5, 6 years later with Downshift, and we're like, we need more lights. We need more smoke. We need more. But it was like
Yeah.
I was writing it out. I was like, man,
We
this is
had our,
fun. You
yeah,
know?
and I mean, we kind of went down the, I don't want to call it a gimmick road, but we kind of had our little deal,
Oh man,
you
we were
know,
having fun though. It
and
wasn't. It wasn't
that's what
about
it's about.
right, right, right. And but the thing is like you know, it could have been called a gimmick or whatever. But the thing was, it was just like we were, and I remember explicitly at the time we were just trying to expand,
Mm,
and we really felt that you know we were so creative that we just wanted to add more than just the music. You know, we wanted to, you know, we said it all the time in interviews and stuff. You know, it was just we wanted to add an experience for people, you know,
mhm.
to come to. It was more than
Yeah.
just listening to music being played. You know, so it was fun. You know,
Yeah. It was.
hell yeah, it did
It
work.
absolutely was. So yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I think, you know, congrats to the Slipknot guys. I think that's
amen.
definitely something to be celebrated. Like I said, they've earned every cent of that.
Right,
Um, so congrats to them for sure.
agreed.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well,
Sweet.
hey, that's that.
Yeah.
Um,
Talking money, talking
talking
biz.
money, talking money, stuff that we all wish we had more of, right?
Right. Yeah. Stemming
So
from the music business.
that's right. That's right.
Put
Exactly.
that out into the, you know, ether or
That's right.
whatever. See if
Well,
it
cool,
comes
man.
back.
All right, brother. Well, I think we can put a pin in it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right. We'll see you.